Hello everybody, and here we are once again on a special Safari Mack's Conservation Conversation. I hope you're all having a good day today. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been well over a month, and I've been itching to tell you about some of the more recent conservation news that I've recently come into my knowledge. Today, we're going to head back over to India to check in on our cheetah reintroduction project, and then we're going to head over to one of the world's oldest functioning zoos for a little something special that's going on that's just recently been opened. And then be sure to join me for a little special feature that I'm going to talk about on today's episode of Conservation Conversation. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. And as always, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page. And if there's a question about animals, or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, you just have to send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in my description below. For starters, let's get started all the way over in India. If you recall from last month, I told you how the cheetah reintroduction project in India, at least in Kuno National Park, while they've hit a few snags in the project, as of course is expected, I would think it's somewhat going okay. I mean, death is not always the easiest thing to process, especially with animals that are not usually in an area, or at least of a different hemisphere, in which I mean cheetahs from South Africa being in the southern hemisphere, now being introduced into the northern hemisphere of the world of India. They seem to be doing fine, and they are breeding well. But now, if you recall from last month, I told you all how the project is now expanding to different parts of India for the continuing of reintroducing cheetahs to the wilds of India. Well, I'm happy to report that these two cheetahs, Prabhas and Pawak, have actually made it to the Madhya Pradesh or Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary just this past Easter Sunday. And as a result, from Kuno to now here, they seem to be doing okay. And as a result, it's been noted that within 24 hours of arriving, they've managed to successfully begin hunting the natural prey. So, the project is working and the cheetahs are doing well, and it is said that pretty soon 8 more cheetahs will be coming from Botswana in Africa to join the cheetah reintroduction program in India. So let's wish them all the best of luck and hope that the species can make it all the way through. Now we head over to Europe at the world's oldest functioning zoo called Schönbrunn Zoo of Vienna, Austria, where it was recently brought to my attention about a brand new exhibit in regards to what we don't want to hear about, unfortunately, animal trafficking. So, how can I explain this one? Sadly, it is a fact. A number of animals, whether they are mammal, amphibian, reptile, insect, or bird, even fish or plant. Unfortunately, wildlife is trafficked, and all for a not good reason. Many creatures are sold on the black market for their parts. Some are sold off as pets, but it truly is a terrible tragedy for these creatures, because when they're captured, they're just crammed into these tiny containers or tiny ways of keeping the cost down, and some may have their mouths shut or other things that can cause them the highest stress and ultimately kill a majority of them. In fact, it's often said that with here's just an example. Parrots, let's say that there was a poacher that captured over 100 parrots from the wild, chances are, sadly, maybe 25 or even less of those parrots will ever make it all the way to their final destination. And for what? I ask you, for what? But like I said, that example is just for parrots. it's like I said, it's not just animals, but it's also plants, even their parts and skins, as you can see behind me. Well, the Schönbrunn Zoo has actually created a special exhibit dedicated to teaching the public and give the world awareness about animal smuggling and trafficking. And as a result, they've even provided sanctuary for a number of these animals that sadly were trafficked or originally going to be sold as pets or for other worse purposes as a sanctuary. So it might be that some of these animals might never return to the wild, but to me, it can be a whole lot better than ending up in someone's pet that may not be able to meet all of their requirements or all the specialized care that these animals have, which they can ultimately lead to their deaths. So congratulations to this zoo, and I hope that they will inspire many people to make the world a better place in keeping wild animals in the wild where they belong, or at least bring awareness to critically endangered species. Well, it would seem that we are wrapping up today. However, here comes our mystery, or I will call it our surprise topic. Today, I would like to give you my thoughts about the Dire Wolf Project. I'm sure we've all heard by now about the company called Colossal that have managed to make or successfully clone the extinct dire wolf, an extinct animal that if they had survived what we know today of big cats, there probably would be big dogs. To be completely honest with you folks, I'm very sketchy about the whole situation. See, this is what I mean. So, in nature, when an animal dies, obviously, of course, their bodies start to decompose. Part of that decomposition is the skins, the furs, the organs, and in time the bones, and of course, our genetic material or our DNA. So, we already know about movies such as Jurassic Park or any other spin-offs or any other attempts of like bringing back prehistoric animals back to life. To me, okay, so they managed to somewhat bring back an extinct animal. To me, it's not exactly the exact extinct animal. It's just they found special features that were mapped in this animal's genetics that they somehow managed to find from special specimens that were found in the earth. But the problem is cloning with extinct animals. Now, if it was like extinct animals that we caused, such as the great auk or maybe the dodo or maybe some other animals, that's okay somewhat. Except there's another major problem with that. Here's how you would have to see it. So, if you probably have seen my side series, Safari Mack's Extinct Files. If you haven't, I do recommend that you go check it out, which I will leave the link to for you to check out at the end of this video. But unfortunately, when an animal dies from an environment, it's a disaster at first because the ecosystem seems to collapse, but through time, it will rebuild itself. It'll take some time and a lot of trial and effort, but in time, nature finds its course again. Now, let's say you have an animal that's now gone for well over 100 years. You throw that back into the mix, can the ecosystem sustain that de-extinct animal again as it probably once did? Probably not. So honestly, for my opinion about the dire wolf deal, I'm not so sure that it should have been done in the first place, to be honest. Because it also now makes people think, well, we'll just reclone these animals that go extinct. We'll just reclone them again. That's not what it should be. Conservation is about trying to preserve what we have left and make it better and let nature take its course. Not something that was of human aspect, if you catch my meaning. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining me on this episode of Conservation Conversation. But be sure to join me next month at the end of next month on Sunday. But until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.